Below, in the heart of the jungle, the creatures of the land felt the wind shift, as if the world itself had held its breath. The birds fell silent, the trees stood still, and deep within his web, Anansi grinned, for he had begun a game unlike any other, and he intended to win. Anansi moved swiftly through the jungle, his many legs barely disturbing the leaves beneath him. He needed a gift worthy of the gods, something beyond mortal reach. His mind spun with possibilities, treasures buried beneath the earth, rare gems hidden in the mountains, the golden feathers of the sunbird. But none of these would be enough. Nyame was no ordinary god. He was the keeper of knowledge itself. Anansi had to outthink him. For days he wandered, listening to the whispers of the land, seeking a secret so rare, so powerful, that even the heavens had never known it. He climbed the tallest trees, crept through the darkest caves, and even spoke with the spirits of the river. But the answer remained elusive. Then, as he rested beneath the sprawling roots of an ancient tree, an idea struck him like lightning. The most valuable thing in the world was not gold or jewels. It was not fire, wind, or water. It was something more precious, more fleeting, a story. Anansi realized that even Nyame, wise as he was, did not know every story ever told. There were tales lost to time, forgotten by men, hidden in the hearts of creatures too small for gods to notice. If he could bring Nyame a story that had never been told before, he would have something truly unique, something priceless. With renewed purpose, Anansi scuttled across the land, searching for the perfect tale. He spoke with the wise old tortoise, who had lived for 100 seasons and knew the secrets of the river's path. He listened to the wind as it danced through the grass, carrying whispers from distant lands. But the story he sought was not among them. He nearly gave up. But then, deep within the jungle, in a place where no creature dared to tread, he heard a sound unlike any other. A voice, soft as mist, singing a song that did not belong to this world. His heart quickened. This was it, the story he needed. Anansi followed the sound, weaving through the undergrowth until he reached a small clearing. In its center stood a single luminous spider, its body woven from strands of moonlight, its eyes gleaming like distant stars. It was unlike any creature Anansi had ever seen, and yet, somehow, he knew this spider was ancient, perhaps older than Nyame himself. He approached cautiously, bowing low. Great One, I seek a story that has never been told, a tale lost to time, hidden from the eyes of gods and men alike. Will you share your wisdom with me? The glowing spider regarded him with quiet amusement. A story is not a gift, little weaver. It is a trade. What will you offer in return? Anansi hesitated. He had nothing to give but his own words, and so he did what he did best. He spun a tale. He told of his journey, of the knowledge he had gathered, of the gods and their endless hunger for power. He wove words like silk, painting pictures so vivid they danced in the air like fireflies. When he was done, the glowing spider nodded. A worthy trade. Listen well, Anansi, for I will tell you a story that has never been spoken, not by gods, nor men, nor spirits. But beware, some knowledge is meant to be forgotten. And with that, the ancient spider began to speak. The glowing spider's voice was soft, steady, yet charged with something unseen, like the rustling of leaves before a storm. As the tale unfolded, Anansi listened, his many legs poised in anticipation. There was a time, the spider began, when the sky and the earth were one. No distance, no boundaries, only endless twilight where gods and beasts walked side by side. But even in that time before time, there was hunger. Anansi leaned in. He knew hunger well. Hunger for knowledge, for power, for stories yet untold. The gods, mighty as they were, could not escape it, the spider continued. And so, they sought to consume what was most precious, creation itself. They fought over the rivers, the trees, and the beasts that roamed the land, each seeking to claim them as their own. But one thing could not be taken, could not be owned. The first story. Anansi's many eyes gleamed. A story older than the gods. Impossible. Yet, the weight of the glowing spider's words told him otherwise. The first story was not spoken. It was not written. It simply was. The jungle around them seemed to hush as if the world itself was listening. But the gods, greedy and relentless, wanted it for themselves. They chased it through the heavens, across the oceans, deep into the belly of the earth. And the story, fearing their hunger, did what no god could do. It hid within the smallest of creatures, the ones the gods never notice. Anansi's legs twitched. A thrill ran through him. "And where is this story now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The glowing spider's light flickered. "It has never been found." Paused, heavy, trembling with meaning. Not by gods, not by men, and not by tricksters. Anansi stiffened, but the glowing spider only chuckled. "You are clever, Anansi, cunning, but you are not the first to seek it." The words stung, but Anansi pushed the feeling aside. "If no one has found it," he said, "then it is still out there." The glowing spider tilted its head, watching. "Perhaps. Test." Anansi knew a challenge when he heard one. He bowed deeply. "Thank you for your wisdom, Great One. I will find this story, and when I do, I will tell it to the gods themselves." The glowing spider's light pulsed, but it said nothing more. Anansi took this as a sign. Without another word, he spun a thread of silk and vanished into the night, his mind racing with new purpose. The first story, a tale even the gods had failed to claim. If he could be the one to uncover it, to bring it to Nyame, he would not only know, he would have power beyond measure. And so, he set off, deeper into the jungle, deeper into the unknown, following whispers that only the wind could hear. Anansi ventured deeper into the unknown, his 8 legs moving swiftly across branches and vines. The jungle thickened around him, the air heavy with secrets. Shadows stretched unnaturally, and the wind whispered warnings only the foolish would ignore. But Anansi was no ordinary traveler. He was a weaver of fate, a trickster who had defied gods before. And now he sought to claim what even they had lost. The first story. Days turned to nights, and still Anansi searched. He listened to the murmurs of the river, hoping they carried echoes of forgotten words. He watched the fireflies dance, seeking meaning in their flickering light. He even climbed the tallest tree to ask the sky itself, but the heavens remained silent. Doubt crept in. Could a story truly be lost forever? Could something woven into the very fabric of the world simply vanish? No, stories did not die. They waited, and then he found it, not in the sky, not in the earth, but in the quiet breath of a sleeping child. A village lay hidden in the valley below, its people wrapped in slumber beneath the silver moon. Anansi crept through the empty streets, past homes filled with dreams, and there, in the smallest hut, a child stirred, murmuring words not of this world. Ancient words, forgotten words, a story passed from soul to soul, never spoken in the waking world, only carried in the hush of sleep. Anansi held his breath. This was it. With the gentlest touch, he spun a thread, weaving the child's dream into his web. The words trembled like morning mist, fragile yet powerful. He had done it, he had captured the first story. Triumphant, Anansi spun his silk high into the sky, climbing toward Nyame's throne. The sky god watched as the little spider approached, carrying something no god had ever possessed. Anansi bowed low, his voice rich with pride. "Great Nyame, I have returned. I bring you a gift unlike any other. A story never told in the waking world. A tale even the gods do not know." Nyame's celestial eyes gleamed. "You have done the impossible, little one. Speak, and let me hear this tale." Anansi opened his web and let the words flow. The story unfurled like the first dawn, its power undeniable. The heavens themselves seemed to shudder as the forgotten tale wove itself into the fabric of time. Silence followed. Then Nyame smiled. "You are clever indeed, Anansi. For this I grant you what you desire. The wisdom of the world is yours." With a wave of his hand, he released the boundless knowledge of creation, and Anansi gathered it eagerly. He spun a great web across the sky, storing every secret, every lesson, every hidden truth. He had won, but as he descended back to earth, burdened with all the wisdom he had craved, he felt its weight. It was not light nor easy to carry. Nyame's warning echoed in his mind. Knowledge is heavy. Anansi stumbled. His legs, so nimble before, trembled beneath the weight of understanding. He had thought himself greater than the gods, but now he saw the truth. Wisdom was not meant for one alone. No creature, not even the cleverest, could bear it all. And so, with great care, he spun his web once more. But this time, he did not keep the knowledge for himself. He let the threads drift in the wind, allowing the stories to scatter across the world. Some landed in the hearts of elders, some in the laughter of children, and some took root in the very earth itself, waiting for those who would listen. Anansi, now lighter, now free, watched as wisdom spread, no longer hoarded but shared, and he laughed, a rich, knowing sound that carried through the trees, through the rivers, through the sky, for he had learned the greatest truth of all. Stories were never meant to be kept. They were meant to be told. The ink did not stay where it was placed. Rotaro staggered backward, breath catching in his throat. The painting twisted before his eyes, shifting as though something beneath the surface was stirring awake. The silver strands of hair he had so carefully painted unraveled, moving like real hair caught in an unseen breeze. The woman's eyes, once nothing more than delicate strokes of black ink, gleamed, reflecting the dim candlelight. The ink pulsed. It bled beyond the borders of the canvas, trickling down in thick rivulets, veins forming on flesh. Rotaro's heart pounded. This was impossible. A whisper curled through the air like smoke. "You see it now, don't you?" The woman stood beside him, but she was no longer entirely there. Her form flickered, dissolving into a mist of ink and shadow before solidifying again. Her smile was neither kind nor cruel. It was inevitable. What is this?" His voice trembled. She tilted her head, observing him with something ancient in her gaze. A doorway. The ink on the canvas swirled, forming shapes that should not have been possible. Faces emerged, mouths open in silent screams, before dissolving back into darkness. The trees he had painted grew taller, their branches twisting, reaching alive. A single fox, its fur the color of fresh ink, stepped forth from the painting, its golden eyes locking onto Rotaro with unsettling intelligence. The walls of the house groaned, straining against something unseen. The woman stepped closer, her robes trailing behind her like flowing ink. "You have painted more than beauty, Rotaro." The candlelight flickered, casting jagged shadows across the room. The fox stepped forward, its paws soundless against the wooden floor. It opened its mouth, but instead of a snarl, a voice echoed from its throat. "You must finish it." Rotaro shook his head. His hands trembled, ink staining his fingers like blood. "This isn't real. This can't be real." The woman, no, the entity that wore her face, watched him with something close to amusement. "You think art is merely pigment on silk? A mirror of what is seen? No, it is creation, and creation has a consequence." The ink on the walls crawled, stretching toward him. The wind outside howled. The room darkened. Then the fox leapt. Rotaro barely had time to move. He stumbled back, knocking over the inkstone, spilling deep black across the wooden floor. The fox landed where he had stood, its eyes burning, its form shifting between solid and shadow. "Finish it," the voice whispered again, though now it came from everywhere, from the walls, from the floor, from the ink itself. The painting writhed, hands shadowed, unformed, pressed against the silk, as if something trapped within was clawing for release. The brush lay at his feet. Rotaro's pulse roared in his ears. He could run, flee into the night, into the wind and the safety of ignorance, or he could finish what he had started. His fingers closed around the brush. The woman's smile widened, her silver hair lifting as though caught in an unseen current. "Good." The ink rose, defying gravity, swirling around him in slow, deliberate movements. Symbols formed, old, powerful, unreadable. The air pressed against his skin, thick and unyielding. Rotaro dipped his brush into the spilled ink, and the moment it touched the canvas, the house trembled. The ink burst outward in a wave of shadow. The fox vanished, consumed by the darkness. The hands pressing against the silk receded, their desperate clawing replaced by a whisper of relief. The trees in the painting settled, their reaching branches curling inward, retreating into stillness. The woman exhaled, her form stabilizing. The flickering distortion around her stilled, and for the first time, Rotaro saw something almost human in her expression. A long silence fell between them. "It is done," she said at last. The ink stopped moving. The shadows retreated. The house grew still once more. Rotaro lowered the brush, his fingers numb, his breath unsteady. He did not know what he had just done, what he had sealed or released. The candle on the table flickered one last time, and then went out.